Alright, this is Brent from TradeGuild.blogspot.com, and it is November 8th. And I have a bunch of stocks. I have about 20 different stocks, long, shorts. Some are ideas, some are examples, and they're not in any particular order. So I'm just going to run through this this list that I've created. And I just want to briefly mention, you might be aware of my system that I use for looking for laggards and looking at different industry groups and scanning and stuff. I'll post a link to that with this post. And today, really, I saw more breakouts than I think I've ever seen since I've been looking at those industry groups. I mean, there was breakouts everywhere. It was kind of surprising to see. Anyway, one of the groups that looked pretty good today was resorts and casinos, and like I said, I'd post that link to the laggard strategy. But we have UWN here, and I'm going to just show you real quick what the industry group looks like. That's in red there, so you can see the industry group is performing well, and UWN is obviously a laggard. So here's a couple of things that we like here. That MACD divergence here, you can see as we're making lower lows in price over here, these MACD histogram bars are becoming shallower with each successive lower low. So that says to me at that point that it's very likely that we're going to see a reversal, and we started to actually go sideways here a little bit and make a base. And we're still in a period of accumulation here. We had a little bit of negative volume yesterday that didn't look so hot, but all in all, there's that BOP profile, and you can also see that we had a series of divergences also in TSV. See that low there, a shallower low, and ultimately we're just about in positive territory here. So I'm pretty confident that this is a turnaround candidate. It's just a matter of where do you want to enter and where you're going to put your stop. But I like UWN, so take a look at that for a long position. And we're going to go ahead and move along to the next one. And this is the Holders Etf. And the reason I put it up here is it looks kind of scary here a little bit. If you take away the moving averages, it just looks like it's pretty much going sideways at this point. But if you add the moving averages, what you kind of see is a breakdown here below that 22-day moving average, and then over here we got a breakdown below the 50-day moving average. Now it's kind of rallied back up into that 50-day moving average in yellow over here. So if it breaks through that, then happy day. Everything, well, not everything's well, but it looks the situation is improved. Should we get a breakdown below this 33 level, all bets are off. So keep an eye on the semi holders, and if you have any semis in your portfolio, you'll definitely want to just keep an eye on that SMH. So let's go ahead and move along here. BLDP Ballard Power Systems was featured on the blog on October 30 and 31, and also on November 6th. So we had a really nice day today, up almost 9% on good volume. So let me just show you what we were looking at on October 6th. So we're just going to jump back a little bit, and here's October 6th. And basically what we're looking at is we had a nice move on volume, and then we have this little pullback here on diminishing volume. And let's see what it looked like on that 10-day move. There's the 10-day moving average in yellow. And a lot of times when you get a big breakout move, or from a base or a reversal, a lot of times the first pullback will be to that 10-day moving average, and then subsequent pullbacks will be a little bit deeper, maybe to that 22-day in blue there. So this looked like a really good area to buy on November 6th. And if we took a quick look at the volume, like I said, it was diminishing, and here's our subsequent move. So BLDP was a nice position. I think some of you got in on that one, and I would definitely let that run for a little bit and see how it does. See if it can add to that and really clear this congestion area up here around 750. So let's move on to the next. And here's WOOF. I like that. VCA Antec. Symbol is WOOF. And this was on the blog October 30th. So let's just go back to October 30th. And we'll take a look at what we were seeing here. And we had a big breakdown over here below that 50-day moving average. That 22-day moving average crossed below the 50-day. And we had a little rally back up into the 50-day. And it broke down on big volume over here. And initially some support there at the 200-day moving average in blue. As we move forward, we can see kind of what happened. We bounced down again to that 200-day moving average. And at this point, it is supporting pretty well, but there's a lot of selling going on here in BOP and TSV. It looks very negative. So if you are in WOOF, I would go ahead and just let that position run if it were mine. You'll have to decide what you want to do with it. But right now on the stop channel, my stop would be around 32.90 over in this area. Alright, so let's move along to our next symbol, and that's BEBE, which is Bebe Stores Inc. And I've mentioned this a few times within the last week or so. It really is an ideal looking short. We have this big breakdown here on pretty good volume in that area. And initially it got a little bit of support here at that 50-day moving average. And it's just kind of consolidating in here. But I think ultimately we're going to see a move lower. We're down almost 4% today. But I think ultimately we'll probably test initially this level right here around 19.25, I'm going to say. That's a rising window gap, and that should provide some support. And it happens to roughly coincide with that 200-day moving average. So I think there's probably 3 points in Bebe Stores, which is better than 10%. So keep an eye on that one for an opportunity. And next up is Naps, and Napster is pretty popular on our tag board, and Job is our resident specialist with Naps. And I don't want to be an a Monday morning coach or quarterback or whatever they call it, but some interesting things were happening here with Naps that maybe provided a little bit of an insight as to what was going on in the last 2 days here. One of the most obvious things to me is the volume is tapering off into this advance. So that's really not a good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean the sky is falling, but it's not helpful in sustaining a rally. The next thing, of course, was MACD is also at a negative divergence here, as price in this area had a nice tall MACD profile, and then we have a higher high and a lower high over here in MACD. So there was a little bit of warning, and also, and this big volume over here kind of obscures this, so let's zoom in and let's take a closer look. We had a nice little run up here on pretty good volume, and what we'd like to see is a pullback on lighter volume. This volume should be diminishing. As of this day, it was not. Let me clear that up a little bit. So it was diminishing up until this day right here, and as of this day, volume started to rise. We had a little bit of a rally attempt here, hitting that resistance on weak volume, and then again we started seeing the rise of bigger volume and bigger volume in here. So it's not really too surprising that Naps broke down a little bit in this area. It did support over here, and there's looks like there's pretty decent support in this area around 420. If we just take a look at one more thing real quick, TSV was also negatively divergent over here, and the same with balance of power. So a couple warning signs there. It doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, the sky is falling, but you might want to wait until this stabilizes a little bit to look at a position there, or just nibble on it and maybe not commit to a full position. So I'll be back with another video. I got a lot more ideas for you.